Hey guys, welcome to episode 29 of Unplanned with Phil Bland and with Richard Mugera here. So
29, huh? Nice one.
29th episode, yep. So I met Richard in Cafe Java. You might have seen that in one of the episodes of Unplanned Daily, my vlog. So and then we had a great laugh that day. But Richard's doing a lot of interesting stuff, both in kind of the investing space and in the kind of microfinance space in Uganda. So I thought he would be a great person to speak to just hear a little bit about those industries here and some of the challenges and interesting nuances that people might be interested in within this country. So
Yeah.
welcome to the show, Richard.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me on your show.
No
I finally made it to your show. Huh? Last time you're doing fishermen and border guys, and now here I am. Huh? Nice one.
So you want to give a little bit of background and intro to yourself and maybe the work that you've been working on and what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I'm Richard Mugera. I'm 50 years old. Went to school in Florida. Came back here, started working for Shell. Then worked for a communications company called Airtel now as commercial manager. And eventually started work for Nokia Teletoikene, which is a Finnish company. I was country consultant for them for a number of years, doing business development work. And then right after that, I met a gentleman friend of mine, entrepreneur and my mentor now, Lucas Crank. And with Lucas, we started a business together. We went into real estate where we failed miserably. and then we went on to put together a fund with 5 others at the time. So we've been doing that now since 2013. Our first fund was $80 million. Right. Some of our investors are DFIDs, including CDC, who you should know.
And for the audience, what is DF?
Development finance institutions.
Yep.
So these are government finance institutions that are looking to make investments in Africa and other parts of the world.
Yes.
For impact.
Yes.
So what they do is they find fund managers who then get a pot. They put money in, and then this money goes to developing different kind of sectors and industries.
Got it.
For Ascent Rift Valley Fund, one was an SME fund, basically small to medium enterprises. So what we were doing is we were looking for growth entrepreneurs who needed capital to grow their businesses with proven track records in different sectors, including agro processing, light manufacturing, financial services, and a few others where we invested widely, put out close to $60 million. Right. And then we thought, okay, we're getting a grip of this. Maybe we could get into Fund 2, which we did. Yes. And early this year, we managed to.
And can I just ask, is that a Series B of the existing companies, or is that continuing at the same seed
It's
level?
continuing. Basically similar levels, but just a bit bigger ticket sizes.
Okay, different companies though.
Yeah, different companies. Yes. Basically, Fund 1 companies are separate from Fund 2 companies. Okay. We don't put them together. They're different entities. And the investors are going to be different. In Fund 1 and in Fund 2, we have different investors. Okay. So we manage their portfolios, yes. And then we continue to search for these growth entrepreneurs and sectors where we can responsibly, invest our investors' funds, yes. And then look to scale. Yes. After which we're expected to exit then these companies and return capital. Yes. With some upscale or upside for our investors.
And usually, what is the exit strategy for these types of companies? Is it go to market, like a IPO type, or is it a sale to a bigger company?
We're small. I think for small to medium enterprises, we usually exit to strategics. Yes. That's what we've been trying to do. COVID didn't help. We were trying to exit 2 or 3 of our companies here in Uganda, and then COVID hit. We were in the later stages of, closing an exit in Kenya, in Ethiopia. We were exiting one of our biggest, portfolio companies. And as I said, COVID hits, and then that disrupts a lot of things.
Yes.
So
People
it's
want
been
to stop.
yes.
See
People couldn't fly to come do due diligences to confirm what's happening.
Yes.
As you have heard, Uganda just opened up yesterday after 2 years.
Yes.
Of doing 50% business. Basically, if they close the economy for the night, that means you've lost almost half.
Yes.
Your revenue potentials. So we had a lot of that, and you just basically couldn't put together a good exit. Fortunately for us, we made some wise investments. All of them have actually really grown, for the exception of one, which was in telecommunications that we exited. But overall, with our portfolios have been doing quite well.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
So which sectors are they mainly in? And I guess something would be interesting is, when you were starting the fund 1 and then fund 2, did you have a game plan of which sectors you wanted to focus on, or was it more like the opportunities arose as deals came along and you thought, actually that's a great entrepreneur, they've got a great business, it's something that we're interested in, and we're going to take that opportunity? Like a grand vision.
If you look at the setup of the people at Ascent, these are people that have tried and succeeded in business, and therefore we were looking at entrepreneurs like ourselves.
Yes.
And saying, okay, which sectors can we actually go in and make a difference? So we went in and looked for high growth sectors. I know Uganda, is very popular for real estate and primary agriculture. Those are not sectors that we thought we would compete in.
Yes.
We decided to go, a little bit away from what was thought as, high growth areas like primary agriculture and real estate, and went into light manufacturing,
okay,
agro processing.
Right.
We went into healthcare. We own one of the biggest chains of pharmaceutical retail business,
okay,
company called Guardian Pharmacies, which we're trying to exit now. We went into logistics of what we would call fast-moving consumer goods.
Okay. So let's take an example, the Guardian Pharmacies example, for example. So what is it that company is doing that is different from the other pharmacies? What was it about that market that they saw that needed to be disrupted, and why are they kind of seeing some success?
I think if you look at healthcare, and if you look at how hospitals in Uganda are, and how the whole sector is, that there was a need to bring some professionalism in pharmaceutical retailing.
Yes.
And there was also a need to kind of scale. If you kind of got a bad headache now, you would need to go not a minimum of 6 kilometers to get a painkiller.
Right.
We've tried to kind of sort that out.
Yes.
We've tried to piggyback around referral hospitals as a strategy, and close to communities.
Yes.
So that people that are in need of quality drugs, pharmaceutical medicines, can actually access them at good prices, at competitive prices.
Yes.
So what the difference that they get, I think, with Guardian is competitive prices for very qualitative product.
Yes.
So I think that's how we've differentiated ourselves. And then just professional service, making sure you have the right drugs, making sure they're not expired, they're not going to expire in shelf or at home.
High quality standards.
Yes, if you buy a first aid kit from our pharmacy, we want to make sure that the drugs you've bought are going to last you for the period.
Yes.
They're not going to kind of expire in 3 weeks, like I know many businesses do. So we try to look at those issues and solve them. And then the other thing was also to be open longer. Pharmacies usually close early enough because pharmacists are known to read up at night, and so what we do is being able to give 3 shifts so that clients can come in at their own timing and be able to access professional help and professional services.
Yes.
in those pharmacies. But not only in pharmacies, that's what we've tried to do in all the portfolio companies that we own. We work with management to make sure that we are professional. Yes. and we give professional services. We try to stress governance issues. We stress ethics.
Yes.
Ethics, everyone likes ethics, but it's sometimes ethics are stretched, and so we read the book up on ethics and try to live between the lines on ethics and doing good business.
Yes.
So that's what we do, and it's working. It's working. I think our investors see that, and that's why they have the confidence to. Basically grow our funds. I think our funds grew up by an extra $40 million for these markets, which I think is commendable.
Yes.
So now we have $120 million to put out.
Okay.
In the next 3 years.
Right. Wow.
And so you asked Phil in the beginning, what's been the issues. I think this economy being closed for the last 2 years has hindered a little bit of our potential. To put out, these funds to look for credible entrepreneurs and credible businesses.
Yes.
You find that many businesses have had a pretty rough time.
Yes.
In the last couple of years.
And if you look at their books today, provided they keep them bred in good condition, but if you look at them, they might not reflect the underlying of the business because they're operating in an environment which has been very not normal. So spot
on, Phil. I think and that's where the issues are. And if you kind of we have basically promised our investors to make wise decisions in the way we invest funds. And if you find entrepreneurs who have had the stick for over 2 years, you're not going to find many investable businesses. So that's a big issue.
Yes.
So we're looking at that and saying how can a business be reignited?
Yes.
But
in some ways it's probably good that you haven't exited at the wrong price during this period of time.
Well, yes, credit goes to our investors. I mean, there was some pressure to exit in the wrong time because we were trying to raise a second fund, but that was understood, and so the exit process now, properly begins. We have advisors now that are engaged in some of our portfolio companies to put together a good memorandum to put out there. So that's happening now. But yeah, you're right. I think timing is a big thing. We think it's the right time to put together those IMs to find credible and good buyers for these businesses that we've grown.
And are the buyers that you're looking for in East Africa, Uganda, international?
I mean, international.
Yes.
International buyers. I think you find that there's going to be strategics that are looking to take advantage of these growing markets in East Africa. I think East Africa is a fast growth area.
Yes.
And you're going to find manufacturers who are looking to kind of get in on the game, from Asia, from a few from Europe are looking in, Southern Africa are looking in, and so and Europe, we have some interested parties that are looking at our portfolios from France. So we see that there's good interest also coming in from Europe, but then also regional. The big boys want to kind of grow by kind of taking on the good growing smaller enterprises.
And they don't want all the good companies being bought up by companies
by
from
others.
outside the
Yes,
country, so.
yes. So there's good value there in terms of getting credible price in the market for a good asset.
Yeah.
So we see that now, and it's happening, and we're strong. We're strengthened by those facts that we're gonna.
There was I was having a conversation yesterday about agri-processing, and so my understanding is that to date, most of the raw materials that have been produced in Uganda are often exported, and the processing of those materials is happening outside of the country, and that's where a lot of the value is created.
Yeah.
Whereas there should be a drive to do more of the processing within the country itself, so that the value can be created where the raw product is produced. And then Uganda would be able to keep more of the product, the value created when selling the product. Is that something that you're seeing, and do you have any examples of companies that are trying to solve that?
Well, those for the bigger companies that are that have access to market. I think market usually is what actually dictates how a product will be sourced and then processed and finished and then put on shelf. If you look at coffee, for example, we've had a number of coffee exporters coming to us, and they want to kind of scale in terms of how they source product and then process it in such a way that it's they can get markets for it. Uganda is a big farmer for coffee, but we're one of the smallest retail sellers of coffee.
Yes.
Switzerland doesn't plant any coffee, and I think they're the biggest retailers of coffee. They have the market, they have the brands, they know what their market is looking for, so they process based on what their market is looking for.
Yes.
Now, we are still looking for the market, because you find that most of the products that are going to be sourced here can be processed and sold in quantities that's available for our market. But if you want to tap into the bigger market, then you have to kind of process with the quality and with the ethics and with the resources that are out there, in terms of, people are buying stuff now and looking at what's in it.
Yes.
And you have to have the technology, you have to have the equipment to remove and add those items or things or chemicals, whatever it is that the market needs. And some of those are not here yet. It will take time.
Yes.
But companies like Nestle are investing in here in terms of setting up shop, sourcing, and then processing, or at least first scale, second scale processing, and then taking out to market. It's happening. It's happening. We're involved now with a company that is trying to source fruit and then process it and then put it on shelf as a drink, as packaged fruit juice. And we're looking at the technologies that are available for that, Tetra Pak and others.
I'm noticing, just like as a kind of anecdotal thing, when I'm going to shops, in the UK, I'm seeing a wide range of drinks, like coconut water, many types of non-dairy milk, many types of like fruit juices that may have preservatives in it so that they can stay. But I think that is something that isn't necessarily available in the shops here. So maybe that's to do with the processing.
It's processing. The technologies are not here, and when they come, they're a little bit expensive for the local market to consume.
Yes.
But we're working on that in some of the sectors. As I said, we're trying, on the fruit beverage sector, we're trying to do our work there. You find that there are some dairy companies that have put in a lot of investment in terms of packaging dairy, and they're very good products. I'm sure you've seen some of the products off shelf, made in Uganda. Very good products, but it can always get better, and then the industrials also know that these products can actually get better, because when they go and buy equipment, they're being told this equipment can do X and Y, and then this equipment can do X, Y, and Z. What do you want to pay for?
Yes.
So they know that actually you can scale. And that's where we plug in and say, okay, look, you might have the capital to plug in at X, Y. We would like to come to you with capital to plug in X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
And then, some entrepreneurs are okay with that, and others are like, no, we would like to grow kind of slowly and organically. We don't believe you that, we don't trust you to, you'll sell our company and things like this. Because they understand to a point of how private equity works.
Yes.
But then they also have,
release control.
Yes, it's just control and fear.
Yes.
Something that they've grown, organically, and it's their pride, and I can understand.
Yeah.
How the.
And this is an interesting dynamic for investors versus entrepreneurs, and how do you how do you back the entrepreneur to make the right decisions?
Yeah.
It's almost like rather than trying to find a company, you want to find an entrepreneur that you trust their judgment.
That's the first call.
Yeah.
Is first of all, you have to be aligned with the entrepreneur. And you find entrepreneurs are usually aligned when they need the capital, but when they don't need the capital anymore, then they start to kind of change strategy, and their entrepreneurship minds start to take them different places.
Yes.
And those might be different places from where you agreed at the table then, and then sometimes those are sources of conflict. But otherwise, if you find entrepreneurs that are seeing it 5-10 years ahead, then you don't have a real issue, because your growth plan is for five years, and then you're out, and then they go on with whoever else will take them to the to the next level, and that's what we try to preach and show, that those are the ways that they can grow with alternative capital.
So is there any particular characteristics that you look for in entrepreneurs or leaders of businesses?
Yes, first thing is are they trustworthy? And I mean, that's it's most are. and some have difficulty there.
Yes.
And then some things change with them, and they look for something else.
Yes.
But trust is important.
I heard just as a quick one on that, I think Warren Buffett has a interesting take on this, which is you want people that are smart, hardworking, and high integrity. Mm-hmm. But the most important is integrity.
Yes.
Because if somebody's lazy, dumb, but they're a good person, that's better than somebody who's a hardworking, intelligent crook.
Absolutely. And
because they're going to steal your money.
Absolutely. And the most entrepreneurs are going to be very intelligent. Usually they'll be on the average more intelligent than others, and sometimes that can be a problem for them, because then they try to cut corners and try to think that everybody else is not kind of at par with them. But those are the issues that we kind of know already and try to work with, and then work around. We try to stick to the plan. What brought us in is scaling and growth, and hopefully learning a few things about standards and IFRS 2 standards and IFC kind of standards, and let's learn those together and kind of let's push through and sell this company with good ethics and proper structures, and then when that works, you're both winning.
Yes.
And then sometimes, you find roadblocks, in the road. But, it's okay also. It's a learning process.
Yes.
For us as well, and for the entrepreneurs. And for the advisories, they also, it's a learning process. But it's working. We're very hopeful and optimistic that, we do better in Fund 2.
Yes.
To grow our investors' funds. and to hold, proper portfolio companies that make them proud.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So that's what we do
Nice.
at Ascent. Yeah.
And then I think we were, you've also been involved in some work in the microfinance space. So it'd be good to talk a little bit about that. My background is in banking risk management.
Yes.
So, I used to work with some of the biggest banks doing stress testing of
Yes.
their balance sheets and their profit and loss over scenarios and kind of prudential risk management.
Yes.
To make sure that the banks were holding sufficient capital to mitigate risks that the loans wouldn't be returned. Obviously, microfinance in an environment where you've got very little maybe banking data about the performance of the portfolio of I guess it's retail lending.
Yes.
In kind of developed banks, and they're all still developing as well.
Yeah.
You have more models that are being built,
Yes.
statistical models to determine the probability that a loan is going to go bad.
Yes.
But if you don't have that quality data set, then it's hard to build that model and make those decisions.
It's so difficult. And first of all, my banking experience is probably not as wide as yours. And I've been a risk committee chair for the last 2 years or 3 years for an MDI, one of Uganda's smaller but then bigger MDIs in terms of coverage, called Finca.
Okay.
Finca Bank Uganda. So it was a women's MDI, micro lending institution, and then the guys have really grown it. And cover very, very wide areas, east to west, north to south of Uganda.
So they lend predominantly to women.
Women in groups.
Women in groups.
Women in groups.
All right.
So basically, the markets that you've been visiting,
yes.
you'll find, in the markets you find women with stalls,
yes.
and they're selling, different produce.
Yes.
So they come together as a group and say, okay, we're going to borrow 100,000 shillings to buy, say, a sack of nuts from a farmer, and then we'll put it to market, we'll sell, put the money together, pay back, the microfinance, and then, and build credit and basically grow in terms of what they bring to market.
Yes.
And then farmers the same way, they borrow in groups to buy seed, to organize themselves in cooperatives, to be able to sell farther for better. To be able to borrow to widen their farmlands and be able to go back to preparing their farms to grow more and things like this. So these MDIs help quite a bit, and Finca has been very strong in group lending.
And how do companies like Finca market that type of things to so do
we
they,
have,
because I guess these women and groups of women would be banking using Airtel or MTN or something like that?
That's new. That's from the last 5 years. But if you look at the last 20 years, MDIs market through the groups themselves. The group become bigger. So if it was a group of 6 and they borrowed 100,000, they pay back 100,000.
Yes.
Next time they're going to come 8 to 12, and then they'll borrow 200,000, and so on and so forth. So the credit managers are usually encouraging the groups to become bigger and then de-risking.
Yes.
Kind of bigger group, less risk.
Yeah.
So, and that's how we've been doing it. Basically foot soldiers, credit personnel going and recruiting groups and teaching them how microfinance works, and teaching them proper ways of how to save money and be able to pay back and responsibility. If I come to you, Phil, and we go to Richard to pick up 100K, I'm going to be monitoring you. Hey, Phil, did you sell? Don't forget to save a little for a kind of thing. So and then it works, and then somehow they pay back, and then they become bigger, and then the market becomes bigger and bigger. And as you know, bank penetration has been really low in Uganda.
Yes.
But it's MDIs, that are helping to grow groups and then
teach them.
And teach them, yes.
How loans would operate.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so the work that's gone in the last 20 years, has grown that quite a bit. You've mentioned Airtel and MTN. Yes, they have bigger wallets now because they are easier, they are digital.
Yes.
And you're going to find a lot of MDIs also going digital.
Yes.
Because it's just much easier. Why am I going to travel, say, 40 kilometers to find a branch
and get cash,
and get cash, or then bank cash, and it costs me on the route to go is exactly how much it costs me to get there. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so Airtel and MTN and credit goes to them. They have made holding money and sending money and keeping money a lot easier. When I was in the telecommunications industry, as I told you, I worked for Airtel.
Yes.
In commercial department, and I worked for Nokia as business development. We were then working with softwares and marketing tools to see how we can bring on subscribers. Not just for voice, but for other things. And this is what you see, is that the telecommunication companies have been able to widen their base in terms of you can actually use these things to do quite a lot more. It can be your bank, it can be your source of entertainment, watch a movie, play music, talk to friends, send images, use it for market, exchange product. I don't have to go to Arua to see, someone's farm if I want to buy their sunflower. Just stand and take a video just like you do all day.
Yes.
And then I say, I want that. The power of video and voice and colored picture, you send this picture now, someone could be watching from Moscow. Yes. And they could say, oh, I like that.
I want to buy one of Ascent's companies.
Absolutely. And different things sell. Yes. What are my choices in buying my next T-shirt? I could see it on, I like that. I wonder where he got that. Yes. And then, you take a screenshot, send it around, that someone's got it. Yes, you go to IG. Lives. Yes, it changes lives.
Especially in countries where travel is so, if I'm in the UK and I have to have a meeting, I have two choices. If I'm in Scotland and there's a meeting happening in London, either I take a Zoom call, or people often, if they've got a full day of meetings, jump on a plane and they'll go down to London, and there's a budget for the travel and that type of thing. Yeah. It's a lot less expensive, but it's easier to do it because you've got the infrastructure there for all the travel, and the company just makes the decision. Whereas here it's like, are you going to walk for almost a day?
And that's the thing, and it's become that easy. I mean, my colleague in the next room, she has a meeting with 3 or 4 other people, wherever they are.
Yes.
But that meeting is going well. She can actually see, they can exchange documents and with the tools that they have, and it's done. Doctors now can diagnose problems by video conferencing. As you say, you don't have to fly different cities to get things done. So we see a lot of that, and that's exactly where we're trying to encourage the businesses that we're executive for, is to look into those options, cheaper, faster ways, efficient ways of doing business.
Yes.
That's what we're looking at microfinance now, is digitalization. The guys don't want to hold, you remember how you keep your books of, your bank account, it's minuses and pluses and so on, and you don't know if the bank has the same minuses and pluses for you, whether your deposits are there. And now with digital, I mean, it's right there. It will do the maths for you, because the software is like that.
Yes.
And we see it from our children. I mean, when I sit down with my children now, and I ask them, what do you want to do? And they want to be YouTubers. They want to grow, apps for people to use that make things easier. You laugh at it, but that's where we're going.
That's what I'm doing right now.
That's where it's going, and they're in there. You can't tell them otherwise.
And the thing is with technologies like this, and it's also the same with with lending to people and things, or with Ascent. You take it's scale.
Yeah.
It all comes down to how do you scale the contribution that you can make.
Yeah.
And you only have a certain amount of time every day.
Yeah.
But you can make a contribution to all of the different companies in your portfolio with a combination of advice and a combination of financial support.
Right.
And so you can scale the contribution because you invest, and maybe a few of them will work out, some won't, but you have a greater impact than your own individual ability to focus on just one thing. And it's the same with technology. Apart from technology is permissionless.
Yeah.
I can post this video and many people can watch it, and I don't have to ask for somebody for money for this.
Yeah.
And I'm spending maybe 1 hour, we'll have this conversation.
Yeah.
But this may be watched for 100 hours or 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
So that hour that I've spent and we've spent together can be
it's a times.
It's
a multiple.
It's multiplied.
Yeah.
And it's like a deposit in a bank, and then you lend it out multiple times.
For sure.
So looking for these things that you can scale. It's like software as well. If you write a piece of software and you write it once, but once you've written it, many people can use it.
Yeah, and that's where the magic is, and then it's people who are in positions of decision making to then come and realize that those are that's what it is now, and then take decisions that take that in and basically allow the new generations to operate and run businesses in new efficient ways.
This is the problem with old companies. It's because they're used to doing things the way that they used to be done, and they don't want to change what they know works, but it works in the old environment. And now you need to kind of adapt and change and adopt all of these new things.
And it's tough, man. I visited an insurance owner executive. He runs one of the reputable insurance companies here, and so he was going through his day. I had a chance to sit with them for 4 hours, and they were practically looking at every check that is written and all the documentation behind that check, and understanding what the issues were. I mean, from how it was formulated, from the knock or from the accident or from whatever it was, the claim, all the way to his desk. He had a book like this much, and he had to go page by page, and I was looking at that and saying, wow, if we were here, we could possibly digitize all this, and he wouldn't have to kind of do all this. He would just have to use his mouse and click yes or no after just reading through. And how much time would that save him? But as you say, the old school, they're still kind of stuck in those ways, and you have to allow them to be. But they get, they're not efficient, and then the market, brings on more efficient players, and then they run out of business.
Yes.
And that's what we see.
Yes, exactly. And that's where the opportunity is for new companies to change things and solve an old problem in a new way.
Yeah. So if you're watching this and you're a little bit older than me, think about it. Don't go through stacks of paperwork to authorize these things. There are softwares that can help, and work with a fund manager to help you kind of get these skill sets into your business, and work with them to scale and grow much cheaper, much faster, and then hopefully you grow and scale to the levels that you're looking for. I think that's the advice for me. I would give big business owners.
And the other thing I've noticed going into large established organizations is that they especially in kind of an organization, large banks that have been around for a long time, that it's hard to roll out new technology because the culture
Yes.
becomes a culture. It's not just the business owner. It's
Yeah.
a culture where it takes a long time to build something and roll it out for
Regulation,
everyone to adopt.
Regulation 101, Regulation 102.
Well,
You got to have this form, that form, the other form.
Especially new technology.
Yeah.
Now in the UK, I mean, one of the biggest things that you often come up against is cross-border data sharing.
Okay.
Between countries. So if you're working with a large international organization and you're trying to roll out new technology, you end up finding that the biggest barrier is that every single country, if you're holding a server in say the UK and the data is being stored there and no worries.
That's okay. That's my finance manager.
I can cut it.
How about I'm in a meeting? If you can come into the office, then we can take this. Okay then. Yeah. So.
But so the thing that I've noticed is you need to get approval from every single country to store the data in a particular country, for individuals to access the data in countries. So there's a lot of regulation that's stopping this, but stopping the rollout of new technology. But there's also ingrained ways of doing things.
Yes.
That mean that people think, well, it's working.
This is how it's been done.
And especially,
why change it?
Especially doing things on paper, even if paper means on Word documents.
Yes.
If that means on Word documents, and somebody approves the Word document via an email, well, that might be more technological than a piece of paper being signed by somebody. You're not collecting the data that is on that piece of paper. And you're not getting the benefits of aggregating all of the pieces of paper that are being collected all together into one system, one database where you can view trends and compare those trends against maybe other data sets to see whether you can set a trigger for for example, if you have a number of claims that you want to determine whether this number of automobile crashes are causing this number of losses, whatever, you can see each one in isolation, but you would have to go through each of those to come up to try to figure out what the overall picture is. Whereas the way that technology allows you to do it is everybody inputs into a system. You get the approvals there rather than on individual files, but then you take the data set from the back end and you visualize that in some sort of view that management can make decisions about the way to run the business.
And that's where we're seeing new professionals in data analytics. We're seeing new skill sets coming on. The analysts are coming on who are very efficient in picking and correlating data. And understanding where and what to pick from the different chains of things that are being done to correlate that information and put it in your face to say, okay, if you are going to make a decision based on the data and what it has. During these times of day or this time of day, this is actually what happens. These are the outcomes. If you take this decision, this is where it goes. Or if you reduce the price here, this is what you aim at. Yes, like workflow. Yes, and so we see a lot of data analysts coming in and looking at different software that helps different companies to make better decisions because of just that. The data analytics.
Do you feel like some of the companies that you're working with Ascent? Is that something that they're pushing? Because that's like a competitive advantage for early stage
no
companies.
doubt. We think about that every day.
Yes.
We're every day assessing our systems. Are they working for us or are they not? And we always listen to software and systems merchants. They will knock on your door. We listen to them and say, what do you have? What does it do that my system doesn't do? Why does it do that? And who is using it? And what is the difference when they use it? So we pay attention. LinkedIn, I think half of my inbox is people selling softwares, banking softwares, and things like this. Or people pitching business. There is this business, there's that business. And so you see a lot of that. So yeah, decisions now have to be, taken with the background of data analytics, for sure, for sure. We look at it, on a daily, for sure.
Yeah. Is there anything we haven't covered that you wanted to?
I don't know. What did you want to cover?
No,
I just ended up kind of, talking away.
I think that pretty much covers most of the.
That picture there is, our team. Some of them. We've got Michael Selassie in Ethiopia. Wonderful guy, very experienced, running 4 portfolio companies. And the guy next to him is Lucas Crank, one of the founders for Ascent. And then you have another one there, Florian Pape. Then you have some of our colleagues out of Nairobi, David Owino, Kome Matthew, I see Gam, I see some of our analysts from Ethiopia. So it's a team of 14.
Right.
And we cover basically East Africa. We haven't done a lot of moving around, but as you say, now the technologies are with us. Can you believe we used to use Skype, now we use Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and we can live with it.
Yes.
We don't have to fly into here or there to meet people, and that's quite efficient as well. Yeah. But nothing replaces a handshake.
For sure. How do you actually, and just kind of on that point about the team, which is good you brought it up.
Yeah.
How do you think about kind of merging the culture of Ascent? I mean, there's the cultures of the individual companies, and those would be led by the individual founders that you're investing in. But there's obviously needs to be a cohesive vision for what you're trying to do here at Ascent and what values you think are important for the team.
What we do is what we have is usually when we invest, we're investing in a big buffalo, and we see ourselves as that little bird that comes and sits on the buffalo and eats the ticks away.
Yes.
So we're small. You're the big picture. You do the work. You're the smart one. You're the one who's grown the business. We're just the little one that helps you see or help you with the ticks that are on your back.
Yes.
And kind of, keep the the diseases away from you. And we don't forget that we're the small little bird.
Yes.
Whispering to you and scratching you here and reminding you to turn here or there, So we're like the bird up in the air, and we see what, kind of you don't see, and try to help you with it. So we do not try to interfere in the culture of a working organization. Yes. But if we notice that the culture needs a few inputs, we will mention that and say, maybe you should consider this, or maybe you should consider that. Yes. In your organization, this is where it might make a difference, and so on and so forth. But
and what do you think about the culture within Ascent itself?
I think the culture within Ascent is to understand that culture.
Yes.
Is to understand that we're a support system.
Yes. To
understand that we are just a fund funnel and the back office for you. Yes. We're in the background. We will help you to look where you might not be looking.
Got it.
And to remind you what you're doing well, and to keep doing that.
Yes.
That's what we do.
Yes.
In my role, I don't get to go to sit in the HQ of the portfolio companies that we run and basically change things around and try to, get decisions made. No way.
Do you guys take board seats?
Yes, we do. We take board seats, active board seats.
Voting.
Yes, actually, active voting board seats, and then we try to steer the portfolios with the founders with those board seats.
And do the companies, if they're looking for another round of funding, do you support them? Have you supported with any of that, like without making it an exit for yourselves?
Yes, we bring in external, funders if it's needed.
Yes.
We source debt for them when they need debt.
Got it.
Or then sometimes, we will go to our development finance partners and say, hey, this business we've invested, say 12 million, but it needs another 6 to take it that direction. Do you have it?
Yes.
If they have it, then they might put it. We first go there. Or then we go to commercial lenders and say, we need so much. As a fund, we're still part and parcel of the business.
That is I think that's one of the big strengths about an investor that's a partner.
Yeah.
Is the connections that they can bring, whether that's lending,
Yes.
or that's other investors,
Yeah.
or even senior executives that you might need to hire.
Yes.
They'll have a pool of people that they've worked with before
For
that
sure.
are trustworthy.
Yes.
That they can bring in.
For sure.
Suppliers.
Yes.
All of these connections.
Yes.
That's what you want an investor to bring, as well as just.
We get
capital.
suppliers a lot calling and saying, "Are you sure that you guys are properly in there and we can actually supply at this X level and not this?" And we're like, "Yeah, for sure, yeah." Will you give us a letter? So we're on the board.
Yes.
We take the risk on the board.
Yes.
And we're directors of this business, and we've taken proper risk.
Or
executive.
Okay.
And non-executive. Some businesses we're executive, some businesses we're non-executive.
Where you've got a greater stake.
Yes,
Take more of an active role.
Yes, more active role, and then then we second an analyst into the business to work with the GMs to make calculated decisions.
Yes.
And then they can manage the decision.
And would that be one of the team?
Yes, like one of the team members you see there.
Got it.
Yeah. So they're plugged in a business, and at that level they're talking and exchanging information, data, and analysis, and then coming up with decisions that they take to manage the business. Sometimes they'll refer some decisions to the board.
Yes.
Where then it's debated, but communicated by the board seat. But actually, those decisions are discussed thoroughly with the whole team, because we take responsibility for the whole portfolio as a team, not just the one portfolio that I'm kind of seated with, but the whole portfolio for the fund. Yes, which is what has ensured some good success in our current funds.
Yes. Great. Well, listen, I think that's been an awesome conversation for Unplanned with Phil.
Yeah,
Unplanned. This is Richard Mugera. He's founder of Ascent Capital, and they've got a lot of portfolio companies. So if anyone's watching this on my LinkedIn channel and you're interested in the investing space in Uganda and East Africa, then Richard's a great person to connect with as well. So.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.
No worries.
This has been nice. Actually, really nice to meet you then. And I've been reading up on watching your blog, and it's quite interesting. Quite interesting. It's and that's what we used to pride ourselves with at Nokia, is connecting people.
Yes.
So that's part of my culture now.
Yeah.
Yeah, connecting
That's what I'm
people.
trying to
So
do.
thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Cheers.